like a bird on a tree. I'm just sitting here. I got time, it's clear to see.
Hello and welcome to your pink hair practice number 2. So at this point in the program, you are working with your limiting beliefs, with releasing some of that. You have practiced perhaps at this point the burning ritual. And so I've brought in a few other supports to this practice that can help with the releasing process, with the letting go process. So the first one is our essential oil. It's Zendocrine. And so this oil is a blend. And if you go to your essential oil emotions book, if you've got that book, in the back, there's a little spot that has green tabs that there's a section called emotions. And so I looked up limiting beliefs. And so here in this section, if you want to go there with your own book, you can see there are recommended oils to support releasing limiting beliefs. There's also some journaling questions there that you could explore in your journaling practice. And there's also affirmations that are available for you to use. And then there's visualization as well. So it's a really beautiful book in the way that it offers you a way to support you in the process of releasing some of these subconscious limiting beliefs that you might be carrying around that could be holding you back from the life that you want to live. So today is Zendocrine, so I'm going to go to page 148 in the book. Vitality and transition is what this oil is about when it comes to supporting you and your emotions. So I'll read from the book. Zendocrine was designed to cleanse the organ and systems or the body. Emotionally, this blend assists during times of transition and change. It can assist an individual in detoxing old habits and limiting beliefs. When an individual has felt trapped by self-sabotaging behaviors, Zendocrine paves the way for new life experiences. It aids in letting go of behaviors that are destructive to one's health and happiness. It is especially helpful during major life changes which require adjustments in habit and lifestyle, such as altering your diet, quitting smoking, leaving a toxic relationship, or maybe starting a new online program, a yoga therapy program. Zendocrine reawakens vital life energy. It also assists an individual in discovering new energy and vitality by encouraging the release of physical and emotional toxins. This blend aids in shedding apathy and any destructive habit, helping a person find new enthusiasm for life. As individuals let go of limiting beliefs, behaviors, and lifestyles, they have greater room to receive. As a result, they are able to see life from a fresh perspective and embrace new experiences. So this oil, again, can be used all 3 ways, topically, aromatically, and taken internally. I want to show you another book that I got from the same website that I got the Essential Emotions book, aromatools.com or .ca. And this is kind of like an encyclopedia for all oils. So if you are interested in the oils, you can order this book. It basically has any ailment you can think of in here, and you can see what oils to use, how to use them, how to apply them, what they're good for. And it's got tons of information. So I went to page 191, Zendocrine. And so it's a detoxification blend. So we're not only detoxing physically, removing some of that physical toxicity that we get from our food and the air, we're also detoxing mentally with these limiting beliefs and these thought processes that we have. And we're starting to carve new pathways in the brain. So if you're interested in this book, go ahead to that website. You can order there. And then the other book I wanted to show you is the You Can Heal Your Life by Louise Hay. So I suggested it as an optional ordering and reading, and I love this book. It has to do with your thought process and how the energy of that thought process manifests into your physical body. And then because of that negative thought process, you develop the manifestation of some sort of dis-ease in the body. So I looked up what not letting go, if we really were to not be able to practice the letting go of our limiting beliefs, of these negative thought processes, one of the ailments that came up was hemorrhoids. And so you can see in her book, I'm on page 175, she's got all the ailments listed, and then it says, fear of deadlines, anger of the past, afraid to let go, feeling burdened. And so she says she suggests a thought process that you might be having if you have one of these certain ailments. And then she gives you an affirmation. So the affirmation is, I release all that is unlike love. There is time and space for everything I want to do. So that's how you carve the new pathway, is by saying these affirmations, bringing that into the forefront of the mind and the thought process. So another great tool to work with when it comes to limiting beliefs and affirmations. So I'm going to put a little bit of this on. I didn't do that yet. And then the props that you'll need for today's class, you can see I've got a slow-mo ball. So that you can use the slow-mo ball, or if you don't have that, you could use the 2-inch foam block for under the pelvis. You could use a smaller bolster pillow under the pelvis. The slow-mo ball really works well for this practice we'll be doing today. So if you do have one, then definitely bring it in. You'll need a strap. And so we've got the strap looped. We'll be working with this again around the thighs. If you don't have the slow-mo ball to put between the thighs, then you'll need a block. I've got my neck pillow. And you can see I'm sitting on a bolster today. So that helps. I've talked before about lifting the hips if you're on the ground. So you can see how if I'm just sitting on the ground, my back tends to round. And if I bring in a support and lift my hips onto the support, it instantly shifts my pelvis, tilts it forward so that my back can come into alignment. Careful here again to make sure that the rib cage is not flaring way out and that we keep it pinned in, finding that middle point, and then lifting up energetically through the center column, out of the crown of the head. Good. So we're going to come into our constructive rest as you're ready. I'm going to move my things out of the way. And then once you arrive on your mat today for your practice, make sure you're supported. So if you want a blanket underneath you for a little more cushioning, a neck or a head pillow to make sure that you feel that the throat isn't fully open, turning on that sympathetic nervous system. Noticing if you feel supported or if there's anything else you could bring in to offer yourself a little more support. And then surrendering here into constructive rest. You've arrived on your mat. You've gone over the biggest hurdle, and that can often be just to get to our mat. Once you're here, you've done the hard work. Now you can revel in this nourishing act of self-love. Coming into the present moment, leaving the rest of your day behind you, leaving the future part of your day ahead of you. You might start to notice your breath, the quality of the air in the room. And then I invite you to bring in the affirmations you're working with right now. So I'm going to leave that to you for this practice. By this point, you likely have developed some affirmations that will be supportive specifically to you. And if not, then we can just use I let go. I let go of what no longer serves me. I let go of what no longer serves me. I let go of what no longer serves me. So again, here, noticing how you've landed on the mat, how you just naturally came into alignment. So how are your feet? Are they lined up, or does one stick out more than the other? Again, this is just an awareness. How does the pelvis feel? The shoulder blades. So of course, my injured side, I am shorter in my right arm. So I feel shorter down my whole right side of my body. And I'm physiologically shorter because they attached my tendon so tight that it shortened it. So there's no way that that's ever going to really change. It could a little bit. It might lengthen and shorten a little bit. But in comparison to the side that's not injured, that's just the way my body is. So there is a sense of acceptance that comes in. I can still have awareness and work towards alignment in my body and noticing how it feels best in my body. So I encourage you to do the same in your body. You have your own particular body that has been through your own particular journey. And so just noticing what's there, accepting it, and then focusing your awareness on exploring how it might feel to align one way or another. Good. So we're going to bring the slow-mo ball in. If you don't have the slow-mo ball, again, you can just prop your pelvis on something else that gives you support. So we're going to connect to the breath, inhaling a 3-dimensional breath, a radiant breath. Exhaling to gather in the rib cage, zipping up through the center line, drawing in and up, pressing through all 4 corners of the feet. Sorry, move your neck or head pillow if you've got one. Actually, I need to move down a bit because I'm off my blanket. So finding pelvis connection, shoulder blades, back of skull, feet, going through your checkpoints. Radiant breath, and then lifting the pelvis. And so I've got a slightly deflated slow-mo ball here. Then you might start to tilt your pelvis down towards the 12 o'clock. Again, noticing what happens in the rib cage when you tilt the pelvis. Do the ribs flare out? Can you knit them into your body as you tilt? And feeling that release, that opening through the pelvis. Then tilting the pelvis to 6 o'clock. So if the top of the low back, the point between the hips, is 6 o'clock, then we tilt the pelvis upward. Again, noticing what's happening with the back ribs. Are they still grounded on the mat? And then exploring back and forth, maybe an exhale to tilt to 12 o'clock, keeping the ribs pinned. Inhale to tilt to 6 o'clock. Feeling the back of the rib cage, grounding through the feet, grounding through the back of the skull. Then flowing with breath, exhaling to 12 o'clock. Inhaling to 6. You can do this without a support as well if it feels better in your body. And just exploring movement, range of motion, the fascia, the connective tissue through the pelvis. Good, and then you can let that go. Now we're going to do circles from 12 o'clock through 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, to 6, to 9, and then back up to 12. So you can start with an exhale at 12 o'clock, inhaling 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, exhaling to 6 o'clock, inhaling 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, exhaling 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, back to 12. So with your own breath, working through the clock. And remember, you can always do less. Letting the head kind of roll wherever it wants to as you work through the pelvis, but keeping a nice connection through the soles of the feet, the toe pads, back door of the heart, the back of the rib cage. When you arrive back at 12, then we'll reverse the other way. So inhaling at 12, or inhaling, to 9. Exhaling to 6. Inhaling to 3. Exhaling to 12. So this exploration, you want to ask yourself, can I find a kind edge here? A kind challenge. So if it's feeling like it's too much, you can either go back to just 12 o'clock, 6 o'clock tilt. You can go back to, you can add on maybe a 9 o'clock, 3 o'clock tilt, and then begin circles as your body's ready with a kind challenge. If you notice pain arising, pain is a normal thing in the body. It's your body's messenger. So asking yourself, can you explore the pain in a safe way, in a comfortable way? Maybe find pleasure. And if the pain is too sharp, if it's too much, too intense, then that's your body's message to stop doing what you're doing and come back to it at a later time. Good, we'll let that go, releasing the block out of the pelvis. Back to your constructive rest, just noticing how you might feel different now in constructive rest compared to when you first came to the mat. Noticing the right side of your body from your right foot up through your right leg, your knee, to your right hip joint, through the right torso, up through the right chest and shoulder, right arm, right neck, and then the right side of your head and face. Just focusing on the right side. What's there? What might you notice? You could notice areas that feel tense, You could also notice areas that feel soft. Good, now we'll move to the left side. So noticing left foot, ankle, lower leg, knee, upper leg, hip, pelvis, torso, chest, shoulder, arm, left hand, left elbow, left neck, and left side of the head, face. Remembering to let your lips part slightly, bringing in a sense of relaxation and taking the tip of your tongue to the roof of your mouth just behind your teeth. As you notice the left side only. What's there? Areas that feel really good. And maybe areas that have some messages for you. Good, now can you let all of that go? Good, so we're going to come into wind relieving pose. You can draw your left knee in towards the chest, but as you do so, remembering to avoid rushing, really find your foundation, find your breath, pinning the ribs down, lifting up through the center line to draw your left knee in towards your chest. So this is called wind relieving pose. And yes, it does mean what you think. So if you're practicing with someone, then you just want to practice your non-judgment if there's any wind released. So it's very nourishing for the digestive system, the digestive tract. We're kind of compressing through the left hip. Remembering to keep a little energy flowing through the toes and the heel. Noticing if the pelvis is shifting, can you keep a little heaviness through both sides of the pelvis, the shoulder blades? Are your shoulders relaxed? Trying not to grip or really use the arm muscles. You can relax, connecting to your core. You have the option to slide the right leg out long, staying rooted through your checkpoints. Full body awareness, and then asking yourself, where's my breath? Can I bring in more of a sense of easefulness to my practice? Good, and we're going to switch sides so you can draw the right leg back in if it was out. And then replace your left leg down, resettling into your checkpoints, your foundation, rooting to rise. So releasing the weight of your body into your foundation, rebounding to draw the knee in and up with your core strength. You might interlace the fingers, you might grab behind the leg, and if this is still unavailable, you can always bring in your strap and put it behind the leg to help draw the knee in. Maybe the knee is here, and we're just working slowly, relaxing the backs of the arms into your foundation, working slowly to draw that knee in towards the chest until you find your kind challenge, your edge. Remembering to work at about a 70% or less range. Option to extend the left leg, staying heavy through both sides of the pelvis. Energy sending out through the heels, out through the toes, relaxing through the shoulders. And then asking, can I still breathe an easeful breath If not, you've gone a little too far. So just ease off, bring the leg back up, maybe bring in the strap or grab the back of the leg, releasing the leg out a little bit, finding your edge. Good. When that feels complete on both sides, draw your left leg in if it was out, releasing your right leg back down, keeping a strong core. Then we're going to take our ball between the thighs and our strap around the legs. So get there in a way that feels supportive, like you are connected to your core. Once you get the strap around the legs, squeeze the ball and then tighten the strap. So you want the strap in about the middle leg, squeeze the ball, tighten the strap, and then lean out into the strap. So you don't want your legs to be farther when you lean out than parallel to the hips. Finding your quiet core, so you might shift the pelvis a little bit. This is a little bit of tensegrity movements that you've practiced likely by now. And then we're going to bring the feet back to the earth. So inhale, you can press into the support of the palms, the backs of the arms, grounding through the shoulder blades, back of the skull, pelvis. Inhale. Exhale as you slowly release the legs down. Keep the ribs pinned down as you bring the toe tips to the floor. Exhaling. Inhale back up. Exhaling, toe tips to the floor. Inhale back up. So you want to keep the torso quiet. If it's really flaring up and down here, then don't go as far. Just let your feet go to the point where your ribs want to disconnect and then come back up. This is good for the core strength. You can squeeze the ball when you come down and then press into the strap when you come up. Or you can do the opposite, finding what feels most supportive in your body. One or two more. Good. And then once you toe tap the last time, let your feet rest on the floor. You might take a little bit of a sway through the pelvis to release that. Let it go. Good. So now we're going to set up for a little bridge. And little bridge, we want to, again, make sure our feet are rooted, connected. Checking in with the side of the foot. You might want to shift your feet to explore what it feels like to have your feet exactly parallel. How that might change or shift in your body's alignment. Back of the ribs are rooted, back of the shoulder blades, back of the head. Palms can be face down and you can root into the palms and the full entirety of the arm if it connects. If not, you can always just root into the triceps or the back of the arms, bringing the hands up. Inhale, three-dimensional breath, and then exhale as you start to peel the hips up off the earth. So just a little ways. It doesn't have to be really far. Rooting into your foundation and then breathing. So can you soften here anywhere? The more heavy you root into the foundation, the softer your body, the lighter the rebound can be. So it can almost bring in a sense of ease. Can you find an easeful breath? If not, then release, coming back down, one vertebrae at a time, back down all the way to the mat. So we want to ask ourselves those questions as we're practicing. Does this feel safe, comfortable, maybe even pleasurable? Can I breathe with ease? Where could I soften or bring in more ease as I practice? Will I regret this later? So all of those questions going through your mind and then listening to your body and offering yourself rest whenever your body's asking for it. So we're going to go into this a few more times. If that was enough for you, then you can just watch and even visualize. And there's the power of visualization. So then when you come back to this practice, maybe next time you do 2 times. The next time after that, you can do the full practice. Or maybe it takes longer. Whatever it is for you, just honor your body. So inhaling, dropping into the foundation, rib cage down. Exhaling from the rebound of dropping down, the hips float up. Breathing here, again, the hips don't have to be super high. And then we're going to explore, if you're comfortable with this here, lifting your left heel off the ground, feeling the whole left leg, the whole left side of the body, left toes are pressing into the ground. Left side bodies, the foundation is pressing into the ground. One more breath. And then releasing that down, we're going to go to the right side, lifting right heel off the ground, checking in all through the right side of the body. Breathing, making sure you can find ease. Releasing that down, and then one vertebrae at a time comes down to the earth. Good, so you can shake that out if you want to release your props. I'm just going to leave mine on because we're going one more time. But like I said, if this is enough for you, just watch the rest of this portion of the practice. This part is a strong practice, so it's requiring a lot of physical strength, and that will build with time. So if you work at it, your body will strengthen and remember. So this time we're going to do the same thing. So we're finding the foundation that feels the most supportive, dropping our weight into that foundation, and then rebounding to almost float the hips up. This time we're going to lift the left toes. So now we're just pressing into the left heel. Breathing, find your core, find your center. Feeling the whole left side of the body. What's happening in the left side of the body. Good, releasing that, and then we're going to lift the right toes up, pressing into the right heel. Feeling the whole right side of the body. Does it help you to squeeze your ball? Or maybe it helps to press outward into the strap. Just playing with other supports that you could bring in for yourself here. Releasing that one down, and then one vertebrae at a time coming down back to constructive rest. Good, so we're going to release our props. So I'm going to undo my strap. Release the ball. Release the strap. Back to your constructive rest, taking any movement that your body might be craving, or maybe it's just stillness. Good, we're going to do the psoas release. So that's that muscle that starts along the spine, and it interweaves into the diaphragm. There's connectivity through the fascia there, and then it goes down your spine through the pelvis, and then it helps swing your leg through the front of the hip. So it's a hip flexor muscle, and it gets very dry, especially due to stress or lack of movement. So we're going to send out your left leg nice and long, and then just let it rock back and forth, and see if you can let that windshield wiper motion come from the hip socket. So it's not a foot movement so much as the movement is originating from the bone of your leg in your hip socket. So you're just releasing the left side. Good, and then you can let that go. So now if your leg will internally rotate naturally, fairly easily, then you can let it kind of flop inwards. And then we're going to take a lateral stretch. So press into the back of the arms and then lift your body up and over a little bit. And then we're going to send the left arm up overhead if that feels okay. So this is all an exploration. Maybe the right arm can come up and you can stretch laterally through the left side body. See, my legs externally rotate, so holding it in, it causes tension. So I'm just gonna let my leg flop out as it naturally would. But if yours does flop in naturally, then go ahead and you might explore whether that gives you a deeper stretch or not. Keeping the rib cage pinned as you breathe, feeling the back of the rib cage on the ground. And when we breathe into our diaphragm fully, we're actually massaging the internal organs. You're allowing the fascia of the diaphragm and the connective tissue that goes into the psoas as well to slide and glide. So you're hydrating that just by using your breath. Good, so you can walk yourself back, bringing the arms down, press into the backs of the arms. Slide that leg back up and in, and then we'll do the other side. So extending the right leg, left leg can stay bent, or you can extend it if it feels better in your body. Finding your checkpoints to root into, and then letting this leg swing back and forth from the hip socket. So it's like a windshield wiper motion, but it's happening, the action is coming from the hip socket and leg bone rather than from the foot. Breathing fully. Good, and when the gnat feels released, you can decide which way you want your leg to flop. Press into the backs of your arms as you shift your body, upper body over to the left. Keeping the rib cage, the back of the rib cage connected to the earth. You can send one or both arms up. And maybe they're just up for a couple breaths and then that's enough and you want to bring them down, especially if you have any things going on in the shoulders. Breathing a full diaphragmatic breath. Noticing if your rib cage wants to lift up, if you can bring it back down with awareness. Good, and when you're ready, drawing the arms down first, press it in the backs of the arms, shifting the body weight back to center, connecting to your inner core to allow that to draw the right leg back in. And then a check-in here. Reconnect to your affirmation. Or notice anything else that might be coming forward. Maybe there's some negative thought patterns that are happening that you can write down and work with your limiting belief, releasing rituals. Good, so we're gonna come over onto our side. So you can just roll over to whichever side. And then we're going to take a moment here just to root into the foundation. Take your top arm, pressing it into the floor. From that place of rooting, connect to your center to float your body up, pressing into the foundation. We're going to come to a seat and we're going to practice some spinal waves in seated. So I'm going to bring in my bolster to sit on. You can come to a chair if it's not feeling comfortable to sit on your mat. And then once you arrive here, if you've got some things going on in the knees, you can extend the legs out and then put a support, maybe the slow-mo ball, pillows, blankets underneath the knees. If you're able to cross the legs, then go ahead and cross the legs. Also, you can bring in blocks here if you're feeling that you want to close the gap between the leg and the floor. That can bring in that extra level of support and foundation that your body can drop into, and then you can float up from that, rebounding the equal and opposite forces at work. So bring in your supports, find what feels good. I'm just going to set myself up here. So I'm rooting down through wherever my body's connecting to a support. I'm dropping in. And then I'm connecting now to my center, to my powerhouse. Using my breath. Relaxing the shoulders. Finding any movement that wants to come in, and then letting those shoulder blades slide down the back. Extending energy up through the crown of the head. And we're going to do some spinal waves here, or also known as cat-cow often in yoga. So you're doing a spinal extension. So we're going to arch the back, but again, remembering to keep that connection, the suspenders of the rib cage to the hips, or that idea of pinning the lower ribs down. As you gaze up, feeling maybe the shoulder blades draw towards each other, opening through the chest. And then exhaling to round through the spine. So this way we are bringing the ribs in, belly button in and up, grounding into the foundation, and then thinking about the suspenders of the back of the rib cage and the back of the shoulder blades, the bottom of the shoulder blades and the hips joint. Rounding, maybe chin towards chest. And then flow with breath, keeping that connection. This is spinal extension and then flexion. So we're doing these waves to bring in this movement of the spine. We want to move the spine in all 4 ways each day. So extension and flexion is one of the practices we can use. And letting that go whenever you're ready. And we're going to do what we call Sufi grinds. And so this is a rotation, kind of thinking of that 12 o'clock and 6 o'clock. We're going to start at 12, so we'll inhale to 12, exhale to 3, inhale to 6, exhale to 9, inhale to 12. Maintaining that connection of the suspenders. It's not like we're disconnecting the rib cage from the hips. We're always maintaining a level of awareness. Use your own breath. 12, 3, 6, 9, 12. You might just start to circle. So you're exploring here with a kind challenge. Noticing what's there, and then reverse your circle. So 12 to 9, 9 to 6, 6 to 3, 3 to 12. Now using your own breath, letting the shoulders kind of roll wherever they want to. As you do your Sufi grinds, you can also imagine you're circling a barrel with your belly button. So you're tracing the shape of a barrel with your belly button. Good, you can let that go whenever you're ready. Come for a check-in. And we're going to move into the other way we want to move our spine, into a twist for our final pose in this practice. So you can come back onto your back, you can remove your prop. I like to bring my neck pillow in for this one. And so this is your windshield wipers. So finding your foundation, connecting, maybe shifting the hips. You can do stretch lying. So sometimes people like to come to their forearms and then pressing into the forearms, opening through the chest. As you lay one vertebrae at a time onto the mat, bringing the hands behind the head, interlacing the fingers, dropping the head into the hammock support. One breath, and then stretching the head up slightly as if you're laying one vertebrae at a time onto the support of your head pillow or the floor, wherever you're at. So you might feel how that gave you a longer spine. And then from here, finding the foundation of rooting the feet, the pelvis, the shoulder blades, back of skull, connecting your breath. Connecting your suspenders. And then we'll grab opposite elbows, letting the arm bones sink into the shoulder socket. As your knees fall to one side, let your arms slide and glide over to the other. Inhaling back to center. Exhaling to the other side. And you don't have to go too far here, finding your kind challenge. Sorry if my microphone is getting squished here. Dropping your weight into the supports of your foundation. Letting your bones of your thighs and your arms sink into the support of the socket. Flowing with breath back and forth, strong core connected through your suspenders. You might want to trace the shape of a box with the elbows. So going down, left, up, right as you come back. So this is an exploration through the shoulder joint, the pelvis, and the hip joint, and a twisting through the spine, supported twisting because we're on our backs with the support of the earth. You could reverse your circles now if your arms were going in a square or a circle. You could come back the other way. You could even reverse the grip of your elbows, so switching up which arm is on top. Bringing in balance. As you're exploring, can you stay connected to your core and the integrity? And can you find your kind challenge? Maybe a spot feels really good and you want to linger and breathe. When that feels complete, you can let it go. We'll come into our final resting posture. So if you have blankets or you want to make yourself that much more cozy and comfortable, maybe you want to get your recording of your guided meditation to bring in, or perhaps you want to take about 5 minutes just to lay in stillness, working with rerouting the samskaras, the pathways in the brain, by saying your affirmation over and over to yourself in your mind, and noticing what else might come up. You could bring your journaling paper to the side of the mat, write anything down that comes into your awareness that you want to work on after your practice. So enjoy your exploration, extending your body out into your shavasana pose or your corpse pose. If this feels supportive, you can stay here. Otherwise, you might bring a bolster underneath the knees for a little extra relief off the low back. Blankets on the body, weight on the body. If you've got sandbags or an animal or any other weight, can be very grounding. So bring in whatever support you can to nourish yourself as if you are your own child and you're just offering all the love possible. And then allowing your body to really sink into that support. Letting go of your practice. And allowing your muscles to feel as if they're falling off your bones, just melting into the earth. Release your jaw, move it back and forth a few times. Let your lips stay parted and allow your tongue to soften back, smoothing out any tension in the face. Complete surrender in your shavasana, your corpse pose. Allowing the eyeballs to sink back into the support of the hammock of the eye socket. Maybe an eye pillow can be supportive here, bringing in full darkness, turning on that parasympathetic nervous system. And then you might start to notice the space between your thoughts, allowing your thoughts to come and go as if they're clouds passing in the sky. If you find your thoughts are busy, you can bring in an affirmation to focus your attention. Dharana, one-pointed awareness, focus on just your affirmation over and over in your mind. And feel free to stay here practicing as long as you like. And in the interest of time, I'm going to close the practice. And when I say that, it's just because of my recording. It only allows me to record for so long. So I'm going to bring a little bit of movement back into my fingers, back into my toes. Allowing my body to enliven and awaken. Taking a deep breath as I stretch, roll over to one side into the fetal position or embryo pose. And when I arrive here from corpse pose being the end of what's come before us, a representation of the death of the past. Leave it in the past. Fetal position representing rebirth, and this opportunity to rise again. And who do you want to rise as today? And what energy do you want to put out into the world, into yourself? As you're ready, pressing up from your foundation, rebounding into a comfortable seat. Taking any shape in the hands that feels good to you, maybe Anjali Mudra, the mudra of gratitude. This one is number 108 in your book, if you'd like to look this mudra up. Bowing your head towards your hands, emptying the thoughts of the mind into the space of the heart, infusing them with the energies of the heart. Raise your head up. If you'd like, you can follow and close with me by repeating, think kind thoughts, speak kind words, and thumbs to the heart, do kind things. And thank you for sharing your practice with me today.
Like a bird on a tree, I'm just sitting here. I got time, it's clear to see.